Hello, welcome to State of the Biz, presented by New York Festivals. I'm Paul Marobella. On today's episode, we have Sean McBride. Sean is the Chief Creative Officer of Arnold Worldwide and behind some of the most famous campaigns in advertising history. He's a good friend of mine. We work together at Havas and Arnold. We cover off on all kinds of ground. We cover off on his career, his advice about being a creative in advertising. We go in detail on some of the campaigns like Progressive and others, and we talk about the impact of AI on the industry. So enjoy the episode. Sean McBride, Arnold Worldwide. Sean, I'm so happy to see you. It's been a little while since we worked together at Havas and Arnold.
What, like 7?
No, it's been 5 years. 5 years.
5?
Yeah, it's been
Okay.
5 years. We're aging backwards.
It's at
You and
least
you.
6.
No, it's been 5
No,
years.
you're right. It's 5. You're right.
5
It's
years.
5.
Yeah, it
You're
was
right.
COVID.
Yeah.
It was middle of COVID. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
But I wanted to have you on as kind of the relaunch of State of the Biz. You know, this is our relaunch episode. I wanted to have somebody on that I'd worked with in the past. You know, we could tell some stories and talk about some campaigns that we've done together. But let me set the tone a little bit. So, you know, Sean's the Chief Creative Officer of Arnold, which is a storied agency. We're primarily based in Boston, it's part of Havas. And that's where we worked together those years ago. And, you know,
And it's our hometown, both of us.
and yeah, I mean, this is just going to be a couple Boston guys talking. I think we should drop our eyes a little bit and see.
I'm into it. You start. It'll come naturally.
I lost my accent in Atlanta. I lost my accent in Chicago, actually. So
Yeah.
listen, I'm not going to blow smoke, but you're definitely a legend in the business, and you know, one of the most humble guys too, which you don't find very often in a chief creative officer who's done the work that you've done and, you know, have brought to the industry, which is one of the reasons why I love working with you. And you know, your fingerprints are on campaigns that have really shaped, the cultural landscape of the industry. And I don't think there's a lot of creatives that can say that, right? That there's a lot of great work out there, but you know, only very few campaigns have the staying power that you've created and accomplished, and you know, have become cultural icons, Halloween costumes, right? You know, crazy things. I mean, it's probably kind of funny to see a Flo walking down the street. And my daughter was Flo at her graduation party, and her boyfriend was Jake from State Farm this year. So it was kind of funny. I didn't go into the background on it, but it was kind of funny to watch her dressed as Flo.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So you've been at Arnold for over 14 years? How
It's
long has it been?
18 now. Almost
Oh
18.
my God, 18 years.
I know. Bananas.
Also rare.
Incredibly rare. Incredibly rare. And like, you know, probably part of it is the Boston thing a little bit, right? Like, you know, I think it depends. But I think there's secondary cities, third tier cities for agencies.
Yeah.
They tend to sustain loyalty because it's like, you know, I have a stake in this place. It's not like New York where there's 50 places to work,
Right.
or even Chicago where there's
Right.
30 places to work.
Right.
But I also think, you know, it's a little bit about like, you know, it's like when Ray Allen left the Celtics to go to the Heat, and you were like, "What the fuck, dude? No, you stay at the team that you're on, and you make that shit work. Like, you don't jump to a competitor that's better. You're like, fuck that. I'm turning this thing around."
No, I mean, listen, and you've seen, you know, Arnold has had its ups and downs. I mean, every agency does, right? Every agency is cyclical from the holding company level, you know, all the way down to the individual brands. There's ups and downs, right? You win a big piece of business, you're on top of the world, nothing feels better. And then you lose a piece of business and nothing feels worse, right? There's so many highs and lows. Yeah. And Arnold's had some of those, and you've seen that happen.
For real. You know, I think that the one thing I would say is I feel like I never felt like the fundamental promise of Arnold ever became irrelevant or wrong or not sellable. I think there were times where when you just, like the point you just made, like when you grow and shrink and the industry reshapes itself and you're trying to figure that out, there are times where like what you have in the building, the story you were telling last year, doesn't align with what the world needs, or maybe you don't have the exact right staff. But I never felt like there wasn't a core of Arnold that had validity and value, and that if you didn't package it up right, or you know, if you were able to package it up right, shine it up a little bit, modernize it a little bit, like it always felt like it would work with the right people and the right story. So
I mean, it's probably one of the reasons why Havas has kept the brand.
I
I
think
mean,
that's right.
it's, Havas is, one of the best holding companies as it relates to integration, right? Because you have a single brand.
Yeah.
But we made the decision to keep the Arnold brand, which I think is a testament to the history and the heritage
Yeah.
and the power of that agency brand.
Yeah. And it's a thing you and I have a special exposure to, not just because we worked at it, but like, this is the agency I got into the business to work at, right? If
Hmm.
you're like someone who's interested in advertising, when we were coming up, like this was how Boston became a national player in advertising.
Do you remember the story I told when I took over North America? Do you remember the
Yeah, I
story I
do.
told
I
about
do. You should
when
tell the
I
short version though. I like it.
I went to Bentley in Boston and came out of school in '92, and I tried to get an internship at Arnold, and I couldn't get anybody to return my phone call. So I
Yeah.
showed up in the lobby with a suit on and a briefcase, which is probably the reason why I didn't get an internship, because I had a suit on and a briefcase. But I couldn't get an internship at Arnold, and I never did. So I never really walked back into the building until I was the head of North America,
Yeah.
which actually had I would say probably some tears in my eyes at that point. But it was, I mean, I said everybody who was here in 1992 was fired.
It's a good bit. I mean, it's not dissimilar to me, buddy. Like it took me a decade to have a book for them to
Hmm.
notice me. And then to be honest, like you probably heard this, but when they called, they were like, hey, there's this piece of business and we're looking for like ACD level people to be on it. And they mentioned the name of the client. And I had never heard of this business.
Mm.
But based on the name, it sounded shitty. Like it sounded like not a great opportunity. And then when I talked to them, they said, look, we're having a really hard time retaining talent on this. If you came in, you'd have to promise us you won't quit for a year.
Mm.
We can't keep anybody. And I wanted to work at Arnold so bad that I took it, even though when I asked advice of people, they said, it's a grind and they don't buy anything good and whatever. And that was progressive.
Oh, that was progressive. I thought you were going to say like some local bank or
That
something
was
like that.
progressive insurance.
Yeah, but I think there's a lesson in that, right? And we'll get to some of the advice you might have later, but
Yeah.
I think there's a lesson when you're starting out especially kids coming out of school today with AI and all the things that they have to deal with is it doesn't just get your first job and grind
Right.
and treat it like it's
Right.
Nike, right? Like just treat it like it's
That's exactly right.
um,
And then also like, just because other people don't see opportunity there doesn't mean there isn't.
right.
And as soon as I met the people, like on the client side, that is, and learned
Mm.
about the culture of that organization, I was like, this is like incredibly well run company. And and again, weakness is strong, but they're one you would imagine in a place that was so analytical, so thoughtfully built. They're sort of the money ball of insurance. Like you would imagine the thing that came last was belief in creativity. Like that makes sense. And so I just got lucky. It was the moment where they're running this great business, growing like crazy. And then the guy, Glenn Renwick, who just recently passed, the CEO, I think he realized at that moment, okay, now I need to sort of level up and have world-class marketing
Yep.
and hire Arnold. And this was just the beginning of that. And so they were learning. And so
Yep.
I got incredibly lucky, but also, you can't listen to everybody who tells you there's nothing there. Like go
Right.
see for yourself. Maybe there's something there.
Right. Yeah, we'll get to that because I want to dive into because I had a front row seat to that, so I understand the math, how
Yeah.
they were kind of like
Yeah.
math and science, math and art
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah.
But I think one of the first questions I want to ask you is, again, just a couple Boston guys talking, and I identify as a Bostonian, not as a Chicagoan or as an Atlantean. I've always identified as a Bostonian, so. I think the question would be, because I know for me how it's kind of shaped my leadership style, which sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, as it really depends on who you're with.
Yeah.
How did your early years in Boston, shape your voice as a writer and as a creative?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say this. I think that, do you know the band Letters to Cleo?
Yeah, of course.
All right. So I read this thing from Kay Hanley once, and she was talking about what it takes to tell people around you that you want to be lead singer of a band when you live in Boston. Because there's this like inherent, like, I'm not better than anybody else thing. Or if you draw attention to yourself, everybody around you rolls their eyes.
Right.
And so there's a thing about being a creative director in this business that I never made sense to me about, there was a period there where people were going by like, single names like Sting, you know what I mean? Or like,
Prince.
there was just all the,
Yeah.
exactly. There was all like the accoutrement of I'm a creative.
Right.
And I think the Boston thing for me, like I was never comfortable with that. And so it got me to a place where it's easier to be a leader and like let somebody else's idea come forward.
Mm-hmm.
And then B, like, you want the work to be the thing that gets famous more than you want yourself to be the thing that gets famous.
Right.
And so I think, and I think there's a benefit to how you speak to the world too, a little bit, right? Like there's like a, I don't know, a sense of self or a self-deprecation that can come through in how we write or I write work that I think helps because, advertising, if done wrong, can feel like an intrusion. It is an interruption, right? Well, like
Right.
how do people who are polite interrupt somebody? They interrupt somebody with a sense of self, of like, hey,
Right.
can I bug you for just a second? I think those things have helped.
That's cool.
Maybe not perfect for everybody, but for me, right? Like it's the right balance for me and what I'm good at.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the line. Boston people aren't right for everybody, but they can be right for a lot of things.
Yeah, right. That's right.
And it's like before we kind of dig into the work, I think it'd be good because I think a lot of up and coming creatives, will probably listen to this, and I think it's always great to hear a leader's story in terms of how we got to where we got because we all took different paths, we all had different trials and tribulations as we were getting there. How did you find your way into the creative side of the industry, right? Because I didn't go that way. I went a different way. I came up through the strategy side. Was there a moment that you knew that creativity was your lane? Was there something in your upbringing or your lead, high school or whatever it was that you knew creativity was going to be your path?
I've like said some version of this before, so it's not coming up with it on the spot. But like I was like, as you know, I don't know if you went to an all boys school. I went to an all boys school, so it was especially so. But like,
No, I didn't know that.
We're
That explains a lot, Sean.
It doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, we're surrounded by a lot of wise ass, smart, funny people. Like I think that's like our culture in general. So even though I thought of myself as a funny guy and I was a bit of a class clown, I was probably like eighth. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like
really? Yeah.
I was not like number one. And then there was a certain point when I was about 15 or 16 where I started writing funny things at school. And then I kind of became number one funny writer guy.
Okay.
And that was instructive for me. It was like, oh, all right, well, maybe even just you want to make people laugh, but maybe even like this tick towards writing versus performing or something is meaningful. I didn't do a great job of pursuing that in college. I kind of like got distracted by the other things in college.
Yeah.
But I always
As
had in
did
the
we
back
all.
of my head, yeah, exactly, that I was a funny writer. I took a job as an account guy. Like I did
Oh,
a
you
couple
did?
Years,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did a couple of years where I thought I was going to be like a English professor. So I went for an advanced degree in literature. I didn't quite finish. It was a really good experience to learn that wasn't like perfect for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I moved back to Boston, moved into like a basement apartment in Allston and looked for work just to, buy spaghetti and beer. And I took a job as a
Kelly's roast beef.
Dude,
Riley's
so
roast
much.
beef in Alston. Yeah.
So, I mean, Riley's is exactly right. I was
Yeah.
going to correct you because Kelly's is still around, but Riley's
Riley's is the one. That's the one I was thinking of. Yeah.
exactly. And so, yeah, I did that for about 9 months. And to be honest, even just like the people, like, and the vibe, like if I compare and contrast that to spending time as an academic, that part was really cool. But like, I could tell the best parts of me weren't perfect for that. And as soon as I got into like an agency environment, I was like, okay, well, these are my people. These are the conversations I would like to have just as a civilian during my daily life. And then I got lucky. One of my buddies, it was during the first tech boom, was working at like a very low profile agency and they couldn't find anybody to be a copywriter. And he called me and said, do you still want to be a writer? And I said, yeah. And I kind of got in there without a book and then I just worked my way up.
Yeah. That's crazy. When you hear, just I told my story about how hard it was to break into the industry. And I'm actually speaking at Georgia State tonight to a bunch of college seniors. And I know I'm going to get that question.
Yeah, right.
Like, how do I get my start? How did you do it? Right. The thing is that there's no formula to it. It's like
exactly
the person that you meet at a coffee shop that, wants to give you a break or, it was my old high school baseball coach that gave me my first break.
See, there you
which
go.
is like, yeah, which is because I started at Blue Cross and Blue Shield in Massachusetts. I started in a
On the
insurance
client side?
company on the client side. Yeah, I was
Oh,
there
wow.
for 4 years, in the
Yeah,
marketing
right.
department, which
It's crazy.
which was good. And then I switched to the agency side. But so I think let's dive into the work a little bit because it would be remiss to not spend some time on that. And I'm sure you've been asked this question a lot, but I think we should talk about it. Is when you think about the campaigns you're most proud of, which comes to mind first, and why? And maybe we say other than progressive, at this point, because you
Well,
know,
now I'm deeply unprepared for the question.
because then we'll talk
At
about
the
progressive.
No, I mean at the moment, right? Our biggest client at Arnold is PNC Bank,
Oh, is it? Yeah, cool.
and when you win, it's been about 2 years, but when you win
Okay.
what is now your biggest client, right? You have to it's a moment to define whether there's truth behind what you say your agency is about or not, right? Like, so I can stand in front of the group and say, "Hey, we're a place that makes breakout work,
Mm-hmm.
and defines categories differently and entertains people, whatever the things that I say are."
Hmm.
And you win a big financial services client as your number one client. Like, that's a watershed moment for an agency deciding what their identity is and what their future is. And so, with major help, and actually not really help, they're the people leading it, from your buddy James Bray and Sarah Taylor and a few other people.
Hmm.
I think we've made a campaign in that category for the sixth biggest bank in the country
Hmm.
that is truly differentiated and special and funny and entertaining. And so at the moment, I'm deeply proud of that, because I think, to do things in that category that are different, that are
Yeah.
differentiated, that are exciting, it's really, really hard. And I think it was a big defining moment for the future of Arnold to say, no, this is what we do. What we do is make this kind of work. So yeah, that's the thing at the moment that comes to mind, is
Well,
the thing
it's
I'm most proud of.
interesting because obviously insurance was that category at one time, right?
Yeah, right,
And
for sure.
and you have a positioning to take a category that isn't necessarily known for creativity or humor or on a sustainable level.
Right,
And if you can do that in other verticals that
right,
are boring verticals, right?
right.
That's a really interesting positioning, for an agency.
I don't, know if it's exclusively that, but but I think that's, if it's not the hardest category to do it in, it's one of them.
Yeah.
And again, I think, we've all been in that place where you win a big client, and you win a big client telling them who you are, and
Hmm.
you're hoping that they pick you and actually trust you to do the kind of work that they bought from you. And this is a client that did, which is
Yeah, it sucks
wonderful.
to lose. It sucks to. There's nothing worse hurts worse than working on a pitch for 6 or 9 months and losing. But when you lose and you were true to yourself as an agency,
Right.
you're kind of okay with it.
A and B, we both won before, and then you win and you go, "Oh my God, what have I won?" Or
Yeah,
maybe,
yeah,
or maybe,
exactly.
or maybe you said what you needed to say in that meeting,
Right.
and then when you get them inside, you go, "We're not aligned. Like, we don't do
Hmm.
what they need, or
Hmm.
our taste, or what we're good at, or what we think they should do is not what they're going to buy."
Hmm.
And then you and I can tolerate that as leaders, because we're thinking big picture and we're thinking bottom line. But it's tough on your people, like,
It really is.
especially if what you and I say to them about what we're about isn't reflected in how we operate once we win that. It gets really rough.
And you see that in the press, right? Like you'll see a big win, and then 6 months later they lost it. And if you've been in
Right.
the business a long time, you know why it happened, right? Like
Yep.
it's probably most likely what you said, that there was just a misalignment of core values or just a misalignment on creative philosophy.
Right. Right.
So on PNC Bank, like what was, when you think about, what was your breakthrough moment creatively on that? Like what was the insight that really cracked it for you? Like you could have been, we all know those moments come at really strange times. Like think about
Yeah.
what was that for PNC Bank?
So I can't take credit, but they are it's funny. Like, I have a brother in finance, and sometimes I will go and talk to him about his understanding of what a business is. And so when I asked him about PNC Bank, he's like, very, very understated, super stable, sort of happy to be a little bit under the radar.
Hmm.
Thought it was incredibly well run,
Hmm.
but like not as flamboyant or out there as other banks. Like it's quietly gotten huge, and so the creative team, separate from me, the positioning that they wanted to bring forward was brilliantly boring since whatever their year of founding. I don't remember what it is.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it was very much true of their ethos
Hmm.
and who they were. And they're again, it's not dissimilar to Progressive, like an incredibly well-run place who maybe was waiting for this moment to graduate. Okay, now the last sort of piece of the puzzle for us is how do we go out into the world in a differentiated way?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's the truth about their company. They're stable, and it happened kind of in that moment. I'm not going to remember the banks, which is a shame on me. But remember, there's a couple that defaulted a couple years back,
Yeah.
and it didn't get worse than that. But there was a moment where it was like, who's going to take these on? Who's going to buy
Hmm.
these? It was like right around that time, and so the uptick in the public was like, Jesus, why is this? Why is there this instability? Why are these bankers playing games with their money? And so it just so happened in that moment that like we came to them with like, we think your superpower is that there's stability, like there's predictability, like that's what people want from their money.
Hmm.
So own your boringness, and so far they have.
That's cool. And they're based in Pittsburgh, right? Is that Pittsburgh? Where are they
They are,
based?
yeah.
Yeah, Pittsburgh. That's what I
Pittsburgh.
thought.
Yeah, you got
Yeah.
it.
So looking back, on your storied career, are there patterns across your most successful work? Is there things that you've brought to the work that just always seem to work? Like is there
Yeah.
a trend or a red thread for you?
A thing I like to preach is vulnerability,
Hmm.
right? And it actually goes back to your Boston question. It's like, how do you telegraph to somebody that you're trustworthy or that they should believe you? And we don't do that like in a calculated way. Like we're not, con men. It's just like, how do you, when you're disarming someone and having a conversation with them and letting them know that you're on their wavelength and you get them, vulnerability helps. And so I would say a lot of times a thing that I preach is you need to show a little vulnerability in order to have the thing that you're claiming be believable,
That's cool.
right? Like an example, I think an example as to why the flow work has lasted as long as it has. Like if you have what could be a walking logo for your organization, right? Flow equals all the values of Progressive, which is not an illogical thing to think. Then you start making lists like she would never be dishonest. She would never say the wrong thing. She would never let you down, whatever those things are. That thing would have died 15 years ago because
Yeah.
there would have been nothing interesting there. What the smart thing that they let us do and the creative team did was give her depth, right? She's like an imperfect character, and her merry band of insurance misfits are imperfect. And
Hmm.
therefore there's more depth. And also I think maybe you believe them a little bit more because
Hmm.
we're not coming at you saying, hey, it's perfection embodied. There's like, hey, I'm a arrested development spinstress who's obsessed with insurance and all the positives and negatives that apply. So little
That's cool.
vulnerability helps with believability or trust.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and that's true in life as well.
Totally.
I mean, I think the best leaders are the most vulnerable ones, and it's such a human trait. And to bring that trait to brands and to campaigns is just a smart transition and application for sure. I mean, I don't know if I've ever told you this, and let's talk about Progressive a little bit. We can certainly talk about Flow, but probably one of my favorite, certainly a top 3 campaign, maybe even top 2 campaign, is parentomorphosis. Like just not becoming
That's
your
fun.
parents. I mean, for me, like resonates like the early work, like the first work with the Costco mayonnaise and like the
Yeah.
big glass. I love that campaign because it's true, right? Like I
Yeah.
can hear my father and sometimes in my voice, I can hear things he would say, and I'm like, oh, man, becoming my dad. Like, what
Yeah.
is happening? So talk about that campaign a little bit. I mean, it's such an interesting insight. Like it's like, and it's like right there too. It's like not even 10 feet
Yeah.
under the earth to find it. Like the insight is right there. Like talk about the target audience and why that resonate and why it's lasted so long.
I'll take the last question first, if that's cool.
Okay, yeah.
I think the reason why it's lasted so long is because I think that, we've been really diligent about not taking the low hanging fruit of that joke. Like the best ones and the thing that we strive for are both that you go, holy shit, is that true? And you also go, man, I never thought of that before. Like someone can come in and say dark socks and sandals, and I go, yes, but like I've heard that joke. But to me, when someone comes in and says like the one right now is about like old people doing things naked in the locker room,
I haven't
which I think
seen
is
that one
just
yet.
it just
We're
came
gonna
out,
have
and
to
it's
play
like
that over this. We're gonna have to play
it's
it.
a dude eating eating coleslaw at a Tupperware, not wearing any clothes in the locker room, and it's just like that. That's just what happens at the gym, and I don't know why there's an age at which you start doing that, but at like once you turn 60, you start balancing your checkbook in the gym naked, and I don't know why they do that, but
Where are
that's what
these
happens.
gyms? That's not my. I hope that's not my gym.
You
Where
must be
are
going
these?
to the cool young gym.
Is that the YMCA? Maybe.
Maybe when I used to live in Alston, there was like the only gym nearby was Wellbridge, which is like actually a nicer gym. So I
Okay.
paid like a lot of money to go to the Wellbridge. And
Yeah.
dude, I'm telling you, like me and my roommate would just be like, why are all the dudes hanging out naked? Can they just put some clothes on? Anyway, so I
I,
think,
yeah, I mean,
no,
some of the lines just became classic too, like defense wins championships, right? Like I still
yeah,
say that, and when I say it, I think of the campaign. It's not like, it's not like I'm saying it. It's like, hey, defense wins championships. Did you know that? Like I'm thinking of the guy sitting in the chair actually saying it.
yeah. Um, so I think that's why it's had longevity, is because I think we've really pushed to keep both true, but then holy shit, I never thought of that.
Hmm.
I think the insight is like to your point, exact point, and it's always easy to your exact point. Now we're like, God, it's so obvious. Like it's just sitting there,
Yeah.
which is what the best advertising insights are. You go, God, what so simple and so true. I do think that like I remember the moment it's analogous, like the first moment where I had paid for my own car and how you treat your car completely differently when that happens. So it's the
Yeah.
moment you start hearing the shit that your parents said to you about the things they owned when you were reckless with them,
Change the
right?
oil.
And yeah, and
Yeah.
the first time you have your own house where you're like, you start wondering if someone's going to wear shoes in your house or don't put your feet on the couch or whatever. Like the moment that you own stuff, you do start doing those things. It's just very, very true. So it's just, it's one of those moments in advertising where you can do one sentence of insight that we all go, holy shit, exactly right. And then we go, and then this is how we make it. And everybody goes, oh my God, those are great. Like every once in a while we hit it like that. You were part of Most Interesting Man, which to me is a similar one.
Probably my number one campaign, which is why,
Yes.
if it wasn't for Paramorphosis, that,
Yeah.
most interesting man, that would be number
It's
one.
so great. It's so great. And again, it's so simple. It's
Mhm.
so like in that, I wasn't in those meetings, but in that spirits land, like the idea of, all right, don't be a boring person. I'm like, okay, I get that. That makes sense. And then that little writing convention, and then you're off for 10 years. It's
I
amazing.
mean, that campaign should have never ended. I'm not going to get into it here, but in my opinion, that campaign probably had another 3 or 4 years in it,
We agree.
as we all remember what happened.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and I think it also became a populist brand, right? I remember sitting in rooms talking about the work, and it was, listen, you don't own it anymore. Like I don't always, but when I do, right? Like, you don't own that
Right.
construct anymore. The consumer owns
Right.
the construct.
Right.
So very few campaigns actually
Oh,
cross
yeah.
over to the consumer taking ownership. And obviously Flow and Progressive is one of them, but I still see the memes today.
Oh, yeah.
That campaign hasn't been on the air in a while.
Absolutely. I mean, it was an incredible one. And yes, you're exactly right. Like culture took it over. It ceased to be that. Now it is just a thing that even like the little writing convention, like how that works. Every once in a while, someone will apply that and say like, I don't remember, but it's like, he doesn't hit the fist hits him or whatever, like the
Right.
dumb
Yeah,
little,
exactly.
like however that works, that people are still using that.
But when Jonathan left doing the role, I remember just kind of behind the scenes, Jason was more front and center on that, but it was, we had sort of said that if we're not going to have the most interesting man, maybe we lean on that insight of that the consumer, everybody's interesting, right? Everybody has interesting in them. And I remember we were talking about having like, the old lady at the cleaners, the Chinese woman at the cleaners is interesting, right? Well, how is she interesting? Well, she used to be an assassin back in China, like
Right.
story of everybody, because everybody you meet one way or the other has something interesting about their lives. And
Yeah.
that would have been a really interesting, it hit the cutting floor. It never happened, but it's one of those campaigns that just never made it.
It's very hard in the wake of that. And believe me, I have some experience with that. Like, it's it's hard to keep people disciplined not to change it, and then it's very hard to know how to follow.
Yeah.
And the pressure is on when that happens. And so like it goes from being like the best situation in the world, which is, hey, we're running the best campaign in the country, to like, like what do we do with this now? What
Well, too
happens
much
next?
equity, right? I mean, we obviously have talked about that too. Is that the most interesting man in the world, or flow, could almost too much equity, right? So if you think about what your
Right.
strategy was to surround her with Jamie and the box and my favorite Motor, and and some of the others, right? I mean, talk about that strategy a little bit, because I think as as creatives listen to this, and other strategists,
Yeah.
how did you, because she's still going, right? But you put this equity around her so it wasn't squarely focused on her.
Well, I would say, part of it was our friend Jeff Charney, and
Hmm.
Jeff had a mentality about running that as a network, and so there was like a sort of big move to try to have a character universe there, and so part of that was just very clearly him. To me, a thing that Progressive has done really well that other people are trying to catch up on, I don't know that anybody has, is like you have to be conscious of the amount of time you're in front of people.
Hmm.
Like, the top advertisers in the country, I don't know the exact number, but it's over 50 times a month you see a thing that we make. And so if you're going to do the thing where you test and learn and get formulaic, I mean, you're immediately alienating the people that you're intruding upon. And so one of the things I think that we've done really well is by diversifying the universe, diversifying what's possible. Like, you can count on a Progressive ad for having something that's different than the last one that you saw.
Right.
And that may not be necessary if someone sees you once a month, but if someone sees you 50 times a month, I kind of think it is. And it actually has a relationship to the thing before, which is some level of humility or sense of self when you're intruding upon somebody.
Right.
You're like, let me do you this little solid of, I'm going to keep it interesting. I'm going to diversify who you see. I'm not going to make one like the last one. The joke's going to be new.
Yeah.
It's like a little bit less self-absorbed version of that thing where I'm in your face all the time.
Hmm.
And so I think that's a big reason why they've been successful, and a big reason why we've been able to do that is like that media buy is such that it's incumbent upon us to change what someone sees and make it different than last time. A formula for that media buy is a mistake from my perspective.
And the world I'm living in now too is that creativity is becoming more modular, right? So as
Yeah.
automation and hyper personalization of content, sort of driven by agents and AI, and are really starting to drive the content supply chain, is starting to change how an idea is made and then how content is actually being created, right? So it's
Yeah.
not the way it used to be when we were growing up, and it's changing so rapidly where it's almost like you have to write headlines, write messaging, or AI writes the messaging based on the audiences and segments and the data signals and the inputs.
Yeah.
And then how is that content being hyper personalized based on the media buy down to
Yeah.
the zip code level almost, right? So to your point about having things that are different every time the consumer sees it, we
Yeah.
can do that by writing scripts, or we're kind of move into the AI conversation, which is something we can't avoid on this call because
We can try, Paul.
we could try, but I don't think AI will let us. I think it
No,
will.
absolutely not.
In the edit, we'll probably add it in anyway, so we probably should just discuss it. So, listen, we've been around a while, right? We've been in this business, both of us,
Yeah.
we probably don't want to say how many years we've been in the biz, but I think for me, there's been inflection points. I think you started in the early '90s, and then in the mid '90s, kind of the dot-com era started and digital started, and that was sort of changing creativity. And then
Yeah.
search really started to kick off, and then 2007 social started there's like these inflection points of creativity and media. But now it's like this seems like more than an inflection point, and I'm really invigorated by it. Like it feels like it's phase two of a career where everything's
Right.
really changing. But I think it's changing creative work, at least from where I sit, faster than anything before it, right? So from your perspective, let's talk about the positive first. I mean, where do you think it's really helping the most, right? And do you use it as part of your day-to-day, or how are your teams using it? How would you think about it?
Um, uh, there are really functional ways that is changing things drastically. I don't know if they're sexy yet. Some of them are. But I think our ability to make something, even if it's like the lo-fi version, really quickly, to share what an idea is like and get an idea across, is crazy, crazy different and easy now. Like, I had a thing recently for a pitch. It didn't sell, Paul. It's going to be a big surprise when I tell you what it is.
Okay.
We did this campaign, and the voiceover was Werner Herzog.
Okay.
Like, we get that weird old German filmmaker.
Yeah, right.
So, like, now, before I would have had to try to cobble together a terrible Werner Herzog accent in the room or call Werner to see if he wanted to read scratch. Now, AI, like, I can get Werner voiceover, no problem.
No problem.
No problem. And again, that doesn't mean we can run that. We got to get Werner's
to do it for
approval.
real. Yeah.
But in order to communicate the idea, it gets much, much easier. Recently, we were asked to do mood boards for something, and I think we made video mood boards, and that's it's a lot easier now to say, hey, it's a scene that looks like this, it's a scene that looks like that, and sort of pull those things together. There's some evolution and human stuff that needs to happen to make it work still. And then things like comps and like ways to communicate ideas got way, way easier, and that's great.
And
I think
it helped on the utilitarian side of the idea of making creative, right? But when it comes to originality and creativity and humor, I don't know that we're not there yet, and I hope that we're never there. To be honest, I think the human brain, at least in our careers, I hope the human brain continues to be the driver of creativity. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, me too. I mean, I do talk a decent amount about like humor and like what makes, I spent so much time reviewing comedy or, trying to be funny things. And, creatives rightly, if I'm like, I don't know, it doesn't work, it's not funny, you get a lot of like whys. And so I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to articulate the whys. And, I did some reading and then I did some thinking. And the thing that a lot of funny people come back to is the notion of surprise, right? Like the most important thing is, some people will say truth plus surprise, but whatever. Like, surprise is the thing that makes you go, holy shit, and, explode with laughter, gives you the visceral reaction. It's pretty easy to understand why AI and surprise wouldn't be great partners. I mean, AI is about taking the things that exist and learning something from them, spitting something else out.
Right.
And so I don't know where it will end, but right now it makes good logical sense to me that the element of surprise that humor relies on, AI is not good at yet. Like you, I hope it doesn't get there, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. I also think I think our consciousness of the origins of something, I don't know how to fix this, and this is heady, but our consciousness about where something came from matters. It matters in how we process it and take it in. The thing I always reference that's an easy reference is junk mail. Like, you know what I mean? Like they can try to trick you with the handwriting or whatever, but like we know what this is. And as soon as we know what this is, we shut it off. And so it'll be interesting to see. It could change our whole sensibility about these things long term. Like how you and I feel about that could be very different from how a generation feels. There's an example recently to me that's like when cutting up other people's music to make music began, a lot of people were like, what the fuck is that? That's not original. Then a whole culture descended upon that. Sampling. It became just as original as anything else. There's individual styles. It's as cool and creative as anything, right? Yeah. So that's one example.
That's cool.
But like, if it's not a vessel for me to see what's in Paul's brain or me to see what's in Sean's brain, and instead it's automated, I don't care how fucking cool it is. Like, if I know that you can make 10,000 of them by pressing a button, I'm not going to listen to it.
So how do you keep an idea human when parts of the process are automated and probably will be automated as we get into the next 24 months?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. Like, I don't think it's a problem yet, but I think the talk track of the industry, and I understand why it is this, talk track of the industry is very little like Paul Marobella being like, I'm excited about what's possible. And a lot of like, hey, we can do it faster and cheaper and make more of them with less people. And so for the moment, we have to figure out I understand why that's interesting to businesses. I'm not confused. But like, there's no part of that that's about activating cool things that people have never seen before. So we have to figure out which one of those things are our priority? If you were like, Sean, can you make new cool shit with this? I go, absolutely. If they said, oh, by the way, the deal is you have to make new cool shit with this, but take much less time, no editorial control, make 1,000 of them in a day and have them targeted based on data in all these other places, then I go, oh, I don't know if I can make that funny and cool. I'm not so sure. We'll have to figure that out. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see, but it's about priorities. It's about what you want it to be or do. Like if the point is to cut out expense and make it faster, I'm sure it can do that, but at what price, I'm not sure yet. And I'm not worried about making it a given authorship and control. I'm not worried about making it cool. Like I know how to do that. It's just a question of whether that's what we're being asked to use it for or not.
Yeah, not yet. I think you're right. I think it's going to be some time until AI can surprise you with a joke, or AI can surprise you with, an idea that comes from the consciousness and the experience of being a human, right? When you think about even just the inside of becoming your parents, right? That's human experience.
Yeah.
That, yes, if you ask the right prompts and the right questions, it might show up as an example of something that you might want to latch onto as a creative idea. But I think that it's going to be a while, and I hope it never happens and AI becomes conscious, because when that happens, we're going to have bigger problems than just, wondering if the creative idea was AI generated or not.
Well, at the end of this, you and I let's record like 10 minutes of sucking up to robots.
So let's just do that. So when it gets into the, when it gets into the matrix,
exactly.
We'll be on the right side of the robots. I mean, so if you, let me kind of ask you a left field question. Like if you fed all your past campaigns into AI, if we built a Sean McBride language model, an SBLM, right, and asked it to make a Sean McBride ad, what do you think it would get right, and what do you think it would get wrong?
Jesus.
It's a scary thought, actually, having an LLM based on Sean McBride.
I think that the nuances of how people communicate with other people in order to convey trust and vulnerability are really subtle. And so my sense is that I don't know that it would do a great job, because I think those things are quite small. I think, if I think I have a superpower, it's weird to say out loud because it makes it feel like it's calculated. And
it's a podcast. You're allowed to do that.
I'm like, I'm not spending time trying to get people to trust me, but I do think that, I'm allergic to braggadocious things in general. Mm-hmm. And I think that helps me in this job, because I can help a client go, I know what you want to communicate to the world. And I think there's a way to do it that isn't intrusive or off-putting, that you're announcing yourself. So I don't know if AI would be able to do that or not. That's not a great answer, but that's the best answer I got.
No, I think there is no right or wrong answer on this. So, all right. So listen, we've covered, some of the famous campaigns you've done, creative philosophy. You had to talk about AI, or other than the machines would probably take us out if we didn't. So we have to give credence to them.
Those wonderful, wonderful machines.
Wonderful
I'm so
machines.
Glad they're here.
Those AI robots are amazing. But, listen, I think we're at the points in our career. I know that it's something that's important to me, where it's time to give back, right? It's time for us to pay it forward, to the people that are coming up behind us, and share our wisdom and knowledge, and maybe very little wisdom and knowledge, and probably just more, we've made every mistake there is to make in the book. So we, might as well try to help some people avoid those mistakes. And if you were starting your creative career today, if you're coming out of school in 2025 or 2026, what would you focus on first? What would be the things that you would say, all right, kid, like this is what I would focus on?
I think the worst place you can be in a job like this, it's a trade. The worst place you can be is not knowing the basics of your trade, right? And so I think if you're going to be a plumber, I don't think anybody gets into being a plumber because of sex appeal or because they want to go on a shoot. But if you want to be a writer or an art director in advertising, you can get distracted by the things you want to do and not learn to be a plumber first. So I think if you want to be a writer, like you should be a writer and you should learn to write. And if you love writing, you're going to be great. Mm-hmm. And if you want to be an art director, you should learn to art direct. And if you love art directing, you're going to be great. But I think a lot of times, people can be clever, talkers, good conversationalists, manage up, and they'll get 2 or 3 jobs in, and then they'll go, fuck, I don't have a skill. I'm like now a mid to high level plumber who never literally learned how to plumb, just did a good job of brokering some deals. So my advice would always be start on a foundation of knowing what you're doing, which is really hard when you're trying to make more money and ambitious and trying to get on better assignments. But like build a foundation. I mean, I didn't have a sexy job in this industry until I was in my 30s. And I think that was a huge benefit to me. I never walked into an assignment not knowing how to do it. I always felt like I can do this in 20 minutes if someone gives me time. Like I got this part. Like I know how to solve these problems with words all fucking day. And that is a wonderful way to feel when you're in the trenches. And if you skip that part, it sucks. My other advice would be your advice from before, which is you never know what the opening is going to be. So if you get any opening, that's when you work your absolute tail off. Yeah. Like anybody who gets into Arnold for any reason, honestly, it takes so little time for people to recognize if you have hustle and you want to be there. Like if you just put in a month of showing off, everybody goes, Jesus, keep this person. Find something for them to do. Mm-hmm. So like, and I didn't know that at all as a kid. And I probably, if I had gotten an internship at 22 at Arnold, I would not have been nurtured it or stayed until 8 at night. But if you really want to do it, it takes very little time to dazzle us all if you just do the right thing. So any opening, just show up early, stay late, say yes to everything. You'll be amazed. In a year, you'll be part of that culture. Everybody will love you. They'll be dumping assignments on you. I never would have done that. So it's advice I always give because like any opening, just take advantage of it and you'll be good.
I think it's great advice. I mean, I had a little bit of a different, I mean, I was never the smartest or the biggest in sports or the fastest, but you weren't going to outwork me.
Well, there you go.
So for me, that's the advice I always pass on. It's the same advice, right? It's just, if you get your shot, just hustle and put everything else maybe in your life, not in the back burner, but your priority should be to learn from the people around you and to learn from the leaders that are around you. And, hopefully that attitude and that work ethic will continue into as you rise up the ranks. And so how do you think, because this is what I'm speaking on tonight at Georgia.
Yeah.
How do you think new talent, should be thinking about AI, not as a gimmick, but as a skill set? How would you advise them on that?
I feel like it's like how we all think about AI. I think we're like, like notable to me. I'm not really answering your question. Like during the Olympics, when they started bringing out, like the phones started telling you their AI, new AI services, it would literally be like they're trying to think of use cases and they can't. And the use cases they think of are apocalyptic. So it's literally like, I want to write a letter to an Olympian, but I'm not going to write it myself. I'm going to have my phone write it. Or there was one that was like a famous actress, I can't remember who it was, like she got a script and she didn't read it. And AI, what's this script about? And then she makes a decision based on. So literally, the promise of this is writing notes to people that you didn't write and then responding to things that you didn't read.
I mean, that's. I mean, I'm worried about a couple things for the new generation. One is social media has maybe denigrated their ability to be social.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And just, because I have a 21-year-old and an 18-year-old, right? And they would rather be on their phones or on games than actually be in a mixer or be social. So I'm a little worried about that. And then, of course, now the tidal wave of AI is coming along, where it's sort of making everything easy for them.
Yep.
As it relates to your point about, learning things. I mean, a bookstore is going to be around anymore. Like, I mean, you could just enter into AI, tell me about 48 Laws of Power. What do I need to know? And the next thing you know, you have a synopsis.
That's scary. I find like a lot of the jobs that the creative is under attack in a different way. But like, we make a lot of decks. And now it's like, all right, people making decks with AI, it almost betrays that decks shouldn't exist. Mm-hmm. But those things were supposed to be a vessel for learning something or having thought something through, or you're creating an argument and you need like the roadmap for that argument. Yeah. If someone else does it, like those things shouldn't exist. It's only there to serve those purposes. Now it's like we're building the roadmap without actually having our own argument. It's like a bananas So I don't, for creatives, I think probably learning the tools is great.
Yeah.
And I think, learning what's at your disposal so you know how to make awesome stuff is great.
Yeah.
I think the question becomes, what's the future of our industry going to be like, and how are they going to get to deploy it? And I don't think either of us know that yet. But that to me is the scarier thing. As far as like, you should learn how to use it. Great. Like, hopefully it'll be like cutting up music, and it'll just be its own new language of cool shit. That once we get our human hands on it, we make awesome stuff with it, and it opens up possibilities. Like, and we invent whole new art forms that we didn't know existed before, and it's really cool. I just hope it doesn't lead to the junk mailification of all the things you make. Because if it does, then no one's gonna, their human attention is finite, right? Like, it's funny. Like the last 15 years, we've been talking about how you can't pay your way in, right? You have to have the conversations that people are having. This moment now, it seems like we've forgotten that, and what we're saying is we're gonna pay our way in, but we're gonna do it much cheaper with much more relevance based on data. I'm like, aren't we still pretty convinced you can't pay your way in? Like, it may get cheaper and it may get more efficient, but didn't we just establish this? Like,
We forgot that.
yeah, we fucking forgot that part.
AI erased that from Google, so we don't remember that anymore.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think at the same time, it's the most exciting time to be. It depends on your angle, right? You could say, forget it, like I'm done, like I'd rather have my pen and paper, or you could say, the last 10, 15 years, however much longer we have left in the business, it could be the most exciting time. For me, it is, right? And it just depends on your angle on it. I mean,
yeah.
I think that's a good spot to just kind of ask you the last question. And, what's next for Arnold? What's next for Sean and Arnold? And how are you guys going to take it into the future?
It's a really good time at Arnold right now. I think the thing that Arnold's been about, I think has found new relevance. And that's awesome. I think what's interesting is the more diffuse like channels are and ways of approaching this are, like a big idea at the core, being able to crystallize that and storytell that becomes important. And so I think, that's what Arnold's good at, big idea creativity and execute it in all sorts of places. So I think we're as relevant as we've ever been in that way. And then I think if you're a mid-sized agency like we are, with a network at our disposal, it just becomes like what are the things you dip your toe into and what are the things that you don't? And I think that's always a difficult, like we've both been at places where you expand your capabilities to the place where you have one or two of all these different things, and are they the best in the business or not? And, or if you try to patch into the network, like is the team is cohesive and how does that work? So I think we are trying to figure out the places we grow that are most reflective of the thing I just said to you. And, there's some capabilities we're growing, but mostly I think it's like belief in big idea generation based on great strategy and really good execution, and then finding the right partners to solve the right problems along the way. And the last 5 years are any indication, that's like a really relevant working approach. Yeah.
Well, I'm always rooting for Arnold and for you and for Havas. I'm one of the biggest fans. Sean, I want to thank you for for being on State of the Biz. On behalf of New York festivals, it's been great to have you on. It's been great to see you. I mean, I think you just dropped a lot of truth bombs on us and on the listeners. So thanks for your time. I know you're busy, so I really appreciate it.
Man. I appreciate you having me. It's really good to catch up with you, and I hope that those truth bombs aren't controversial in any way. I hope.
Well, if they are, we'll know soon enough in the comments. So
there we go, brother. It's good to see you, man. I'm glad you're well, and thank you for asking me. I'm honored and really appreciative. Yeah,
pleasure.
All right.
Okay, talk soon.
See you, Paul.